Story 1. I'm new to dating after the breakup of a 15-year relationship, and I am using the dating applications. When a nice girl I like does not reply, I feel anxious. When a nice girl I like does reply, I feel anxious. Being single is scary. Story 2. Going to a grocery store that is not my usual store and parking. Story 3. When Christians start talking about God to me, they act like I am an idiot who has never heard the word of God before. They behave as if they have the key to a grand secret no one else knows and feel it is okay to trap you in long, preachy conversations. Even if you try to change the subject, everything somehow ties back to Jesus. They seem to think it is acceptable to constantly try to convert random people who are just going about their lives and are not interested. "Let me pray for you" is another phrase that is very annoying because it feels rude to say no, and then you are trapped in this ritual with them. I especially dislike when my clients do this because I cannot tell them I am not interested, so I have to play along, and it is very obnoxious. I have nothing against Christians or Christianity. To each their own. But for the love of peace, leave me alone. No one cares. I grew up in a Catholic school and probably know the Bible better than you, as I have been forced to read it from cover to cover more than once. Enough. Let us please move on to another subject. Story 4. Micromanagement plummets my productivity. I am still recovering from a year at one of the most toxic startups. Story 5. Someone knocking on my door. Long car rides. Many changes all at once. Story 6. Next, we will go around the room so everyone can introduce themselves. Story 7. When I remember situations that happened to me in the past. Story 8. When my gut instincts strongly insist that I face what I do not want to face, I literally shake with anxiety. The anxiety stops as soon as I handle the uncomfortable situation. Story 9. Feeling like I am going to be late. Feeling nauseated. Random weird body pains. Unexpected phone calls or meetings. Many drivers on the road. Story 10. Christmas and Thanksgiving. Get a grip, people, and stop expecting me to cook, shop, clean, and act nice. Story 11. Finding water in your home where there should not be any water. This happened to me just last week. Story 12. Getting lost, like I was yesterday, because Google Maps autocorrected an address and sent me to a random country road. Story 13. Travel and large crowds or many people in small spaces. Story 14. Change in routine. My friend always texts me at 3 p.m., then she goes 3 days without texting. That gives me anxiety. My husband always arrives home at 4:30. Now it is almost 5 and he is not home. I am anxious. Any change in routine, when I do not know why it changed, causes me instant anxiety. Story 15. Pretty much everything, honestly. Therapy isn't working, so I guess I'll turn to large pharmaceutical companies next. Story 16. Let's go around the room and get to know each other. Quem we watch? Story 17. Pretty much everything. The unknown, new places, people, stores, driving. Story 18. When I am treated unfairly, the idea of confronting someone and having an uncomfortable conversation causes me immediate anxiety. Story 19. When people cannot communicate directly, like they actually cannot comprehend what I am saying or are pretending to understand with responses that have nothing to do with what I just said to them. Story 20. My mom is watching 90 Day Fiancé when I go over to spend the evening with her. Story 21. My mother-in-law is dropping various propaganda videos into the family group chat. Shaking my head. Story 22. Standing in line waiting to pay at any big store like Walmart. I am fine walking through the aisles, but the second I am stopped waiting in that line to check out, my anxiety starts going through the roof. I hate it. Story 23. When they talk to me with insults and disqualifications. Story 24. When I can hear people loudly chewing their food or gum, it's enough to make me feel instant rage and anxiety about how to make it stop. If I can just hear you chewing, it's difficult. But when you add in smacking your lips, I have to work really hard not to punch you or hurt myself. Story 25. Silent rooms with no escape. Examples: classrooms, doctors' offices, car rides with people. I'm fine alone. Basically, Anywhere where I don't have control of the environment and there are people around to perceive me. If I had to sit in one room for 6 hours alone, I would be fine. The people add an element that literally triggers a fight or flight response. I try to say to myself, breathe. One day this will all end. The whole world will implode, and nothing will exist. It's an odd thing to tell myself, but I'm an atheist, so it brings me comfort. Story 26. Subways, trains, or trams where the doors close quickly. Story 27. Entering a venue such as a concert or theme park, everyone stops immediately. Please move over to the side. Story 28. When someone passes gas at a meeting and you have to try to silently laugh. Story 29. Thinking about having to move if I cannot find employment. Story 30. Going into large buildings with fluorescent lighting, such as Costco, grocery stores, and libraries. Last-minute meetings. Someone at the front door unexpectedly. Feeling like I am somewhere that I am trapped and cannot easily leave. Similar to being stuck in traffic. Story 31. Opening a bag of chips in class and realizing the entire universe just heard you. Story 32. You name it. I live in an older home. Every time my house makes a noise, I say to myself, Self, what is this going to cost me? Story 33. This post provides a diagram explaining how John Jones was stuck upside down. Story 34. Pop culture buzzwords always make me anxious and I don't know why. Maybe it's the overuse. For instance, right now I can't go 30 minutes without hearing a coworker say, crash out. Story 35. People interacting with me make me anxious. I think about what if I act strange or misunderstand them, among other concerns. I struggle with social interactions. Story 36. Any notification, phone call, or text. Especially we need to talk. Story 37. When I wake up even slightly late on the days I work, I have a full-blown panic attack because I woke up 15 minutes late. I have had to call my workplace to ask if they are okay with me coming in a bit late due to waking up late and secretly dealing with the panic attack. There have even been days when I had to call out from work because I was having a panic attack before my shift. Story 38. People arguing and confronting others, the thought of calling someone. Story 39. People sneezing and pigeons flapping their wings. If today is anything to go by, I jumped at both of them. Story 40. Confrontation or men even slightly raising their voices at me. Story 41. Being around older men, which is frustrating because the fall semester starts on Monday and some of my professors are male. Story 42. Incoming text. We need to talk. Also, a phone call from my parents without warning. Story 43. When I have to call or deal with people I have never talked with before, I get anxiety. I also feel anxious when the apartment complex sends someone to my house to do repairs or sends the pest control technician to spray. I do not really invite people into my space, but they come anyway, and I hate that. I have trauma from childhood because we were constantly being thrown out of places where we lived. When they send us notices like 4 days in advance that on Friday they will send the pest control technician to spray the whole complex. Something they do every other month. I do not sleep for 4 days. Story 44. When my wife drinks, she is an alcoholic. She is 39 days sober. Story 45. Watching children play with balloons. Terrified of sudden loud pops. So seeing a child mishandle a balloon is a nightmare. Story 46. Having to use an excavator to dig up water mains and sewers when there are utilities to work around. Threading the fine needle sometimes. Story 47. Messiness, drama, angry people, bills, the cost of living, everything. Story 48. The moment I realize my good intentions do not align with my behavior. Story 49. Street-only parking. Work phone ringing. Supervisor calling without notice. Story 50. Police. Even if I am not doing anything wrong, I have never had a good interaction with them. The worst interactions were when help was actually needed. They just gather in groups like city workers around a pothole but with guns instead of shovels. Story 51. Car problems. Anything related to cars or driving that is not normal. Story 52. When people tell me they are worried about me, It feels like I am somehow responsible for their anxieties or that I have not grown into a well-functioning adult who can take care of myself. Story 53. Someone is getting mad at me for something I might have done when I was actively addicted to drugs. It has been a couple of years and I have not done anything wrong, but I am always being blamed. Story 54. When someone says, "I have to talk to you about something," and then they vanish without telling me. Story 55. When someone just will not or cannot be quiet, even for 1 second. They keep talking all the time and will not be silent. Every television show or movie is talked over. At 3 a.m., it is time to tell me something stupid or ask a totally random question. Story 56. 1. People yelling. 2. Doors slamming. 3. An abrupt change to a plan with no warning or flexibility. We have to do this now. Story 57. People who question things. Over the years, I have had coworkers who question even the simplest tasks, and it is aggravating and anxiety-inducing. Story 58. Leaving the house honestly. I do my weekly grocery shopping every Saturday morning. If I have to go to the store any other time than that, it gives me bad anxiety. Occasionally, I will treat myself to a trip to Barnes & Noble, but other than that, I don't go out too much unless I really have to. Story 59. When the manager asks me to see them in their office, it is especially bad if human resources is there because it usually means a more serious punishment, such as termination or a final warning. Story 60. Clutter, large messes, unpleasant odors everywhere, dirty microwaves and refrigerators. Story 61. When my children are sick or hurt, I send out invoices for my business. Story 62. Sudden loud noises, people arguing and fighting, and Christianity as a whole. Story 63. When someone texts me and asks an extremely surface-level question, and I already do not want to respond because I know they will soon be asking me for a favor, just say it already. Story 64. The Netflix dramatic sound. Family, gunshots, getting lost, being woken up, knocking, extreme heat, low income, knee pain, the smell of beer. Story 65. The sound of furniture moving, that very distinctive sound of wood on flooring. My stepdad used to physically abuse my mom, and I would hear that sound from upstairs or downstairs. It still affects me deeply. Story 66. They ask me, "Are you okay?" Whether I am good or not, I feel really bad and I have to think about why he could have asked me that. Yes, I'm not okay. I'm crying. Story 67. Leaving California unless it is Oregon, Kauai, or Nevada. Story 68. Can I tell you something? Can I be honest with you? We need to talk. Story 69. Leaving my home to go to the city. I am just scared of my car breaking down. Story 70. People are playing football nearby. I think they're going to kick it toward me. I know it's silly, but it's a holdover from my difficult school days, I guess. Story 71. Having to get up for work in the morning and actually having to go. Story 72. What does not? But for Rayal. Driving, phone calls, a knock at the door, people yelling. Story 73. Thinking about the future. Also thinking about the next time I work. Story 74. Noises from screaming children and babies. I have heard that every year since I turned 20. I dislike Generation Alpha. Story 75. Knock on the door. It has nothing to do with criminal activity. Story 76. A lot of things. Imposter syndrome, meeting new people, overthinking, thinking you are saying the wrong things, people just staring at me. Story 77. When someone says, "We need to talk," over text, and then disappears for a few minutes, it is frustrating. Most of the time, it is not even that important, so why use those exact words? Story 78. Having to introduce myself to a group does not matter if it is a big group, small group, people I know, or strangers. My brain and body respond with flight, and I usually make excuses to avoid any initial meetings where introductions may happen, or I pretend to get a call to leave before I have to say anything. If you met me, you would probably be shocked to know this. I hate myself for these reactions and have been angry to the point of tears for my mind and body betraying me this way. Story 79. When my wife sends me a text that says, I really need to talk to you about something important, but I don't want to do it over text. It is literally 3 minutes into my workday. Story 80. Everything both in and not in existence. Especially the sound of footsteps approaching me. Story 81. Thinking about the future and what I need to do. For example, I need to write to someone about my work or even talk to someone other than my friends. Story 82. Swimming, or simply going to a beach and taking a swim. When I was very young, I almost drowned twice. For years, I had nightmares about drowning. Story 83. Apparently, if my engine starts overheating while I am driving, because that happened recently and it was bad. Story 84. Driving. I like driving, but it is scary and dangerous now. Story 85. As a truck driver, driving on overcrowded interstate highways during the daytime. Story 86. Things that would stress the usual person out do not bother me. It is the small details in things, usually existential, that get me quickly. Story 87. Holidays, especially Christmas. Starting around Thanksgiving, I have panic attacks over decorating, shopping, and baking. Even Christmas carols wind me up. I hate it. Story 88. Thinking about my parents not existing in my life anymore. Story 89. Leaving my 2 cats home alone, I instantly imagine fire, flood, and death, with me being several kilometers away and unable to save them. Story 90. Not knowing the parking situation before going to a new place. Story 91. 1. Confrontation of any kind. 2. Arguing with a close friend, even if it is defending someone else or a very unwise stance. 3. Asking for assistance. 4. Asking my friends to hang out. I literally run away from my phone the moment I send a text. 5. Showing up too early to an event and having to be the first person there, as well as showing up late. At the last party I was invited to, I paced around contemplating whether or not to go in. 6. My parents. 7. Having to locate anyone in a large crowd. 8. Being left alone at a bar while your friends go to the bathroom or grab a drink. Story 92. My mother is poor, and I do a lot for her, but I'm across the country. My wife limits this because my sister lives with her and doesn't work. I visited, and my aunt and uncle were coming over for dinner. I pulled the table apart to put the leaf in, and cockroaches scattered everywhere. She said, "Yes, I think they came in when I brought back a box from the storage unit." I started yelling, "This is not okay," repeatedly, grabbed the vacuum and started sucking them up. I was terrified that one would pop up during dinner. If one did, I didn't see it. The next day, I told her I would take her out to dinner, and we could do things outside the house, but I couldn't be there. They did a bug bomb and said it got them all after I left, but I just couldn't get it out of my head. I pay for exterminator service now. I lived in some pretty dodgy places as a kid. Just typing this sent my pulse up 10 points. Story 93. If I am out and about away from home and need to use the restroom. Story 94. Other people's snoring. I fear I won't be able to sleep because people will keep me awake. I wait for noises that disturb me, feeling like I have no control and at the mercy of others. This makes me very anxious about sleep, especially since being kept awake at university and having a partner who snores turns me into a nervous wreck. I feel like I have no control when other people affect my plans. I am aware that others' actions can seriously impact my day and prevent me from doing things. Shared living spaces feel vulnerable to disruption at any time. I worry there won't be any quiet in my house, or I fear the absence of quiet. People who are not self-aware bother me. Listening to people talk about nonsense honestly makes me feel depressed. Noisy neighbors make me feel powerless when all I want is peace. Loud families are difficult to endure. People talking in the cinema make me anxious and can cause me to shout. The same happens in the theater. Other people's actions affect me, and the fear of this happening sometimes discourages me from going. Not having clear plans for when the bathroom will be free in the morning makes getting ready for work stressful. People not respecting that I'm introverted and do not want to engage in small talk frustrates me. I feel overwhelmed by many demands on me. People moving my belongings is upsetting. Not being able to find my things, realizing something is missing late at night, and then having to find it is stressful. People pressuring me to agree to definite plans makes me uncomfortable. Loud people disturb me. People talking over each other bothers me. I worry about how I have acted or come across. I'm aware I won't have any alone time when I most need it. Swimming pool filters are bothersome. Friends who text me too much overwhelm me. Phone calls from anyone other than my boyfriend cause stress. Super long voice notes I haven't listened to add to my anxiety. Voicemails worry me because I think something bad must have happened since people avoid calling me. Missed calls from my parents make me fear that something serious has occurred. Sorry for the long list. Story 95. Being an adult is not about instant anxiety but constant anxiety. Story 96. Raised voices, many people, one of my children or grandchildren hurt, new situations sometimes. Story 97. When someone says, "We need to talk," or something similar. Story 98. People ask me a barrage of questions at a constant cocktail party. It drains me. Story 99. Being late, work, several trauma-based events and their residual aftereffects, having too much to do with too little time, loud and crowded areas and cluttered spaces, to name a few. Story 100. Heights, especially when you can see down open stairwells. Story 101. An unscheduled phone call from any of my doctor's offices is worrisome. I have multiple health issues. So far, anytime I receive a random call from them, it is not good news. One doctor actually informed me of how upset she was on my behalf, and I could hear her voice cracking. That was an awful month. Story 102. That picture of the cave diver who went down the wrong hole and died upside down. Story 103. The car makes a strange noise, or one of the warning lights illuminates on the dashboard. Story 104. The sound of the garage door opening when my husband gets home. I just want to do my own thing and he spoils it. Story 105. Do not tell me it is your life. Mom, no one says that unless they think you will ruin it. Story 106. Remembering all the mistakes I made during the pandemic, I fear that one day if I become famous, those mistakes will come to light, and some very special people to me will find out and not let me explain. Story 107. Phone call from an anonymous number, usually just the online shopping delivery person. Story 108. The fact that I am a living specimen on a big floating rock in the middle of nowhere. The second I start thinking about existence, I need to sit down. Story 109. When my children have all the devices volume at 100 and try to talk over each other and the devices. Any loud, unexpected noise. Waking up and seeing the slightest bit of daylight through the window because that means I overslept. Leaving a store without buying anything. I automatically assume the employees think I stole something. Laugh out loud. Story 110. Yelling. Hearing babies cry. Slamming doors. Talking to strangers. Story 111. People arguing, especially my parents. It happens rarely, but when it does, oh boy. Just like another person commented. Story 112. I feel like I smell something or that someone is accusing me of something. Story 113. For me, it is usually when my phone rings unexpectedly, especially in the middle of the night. My brain goes into panic mode. Story 114. My ringtone. There is no good reason for someone to call anymore. Story 115. The music video for Madison Beer's Spinnin'. In a frozen, empty world just feels so wrong. Story 116. My lack of life planning is catching up with me now that I am in my late 50s. Story 117. Certain memories or being in a crowded place. Story 118. Looking at instructions for something that is supposed to be obvious or simple, and I do not see it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.